Have you noticed how desperate it is to feel your back hurting constantly, your posture bending without you being able to control, and having that secret fear that any sudden movement can result in a fracture? If you are over 60 and live daily with the feeling that your bones are no longer reliable, that have lost that strength and resistance from before, today you will discover something that may be silently sabotaging your bone structure every day. Worse, you probably don't even imagine you're doing it with yourself. A 2024 revolutionary study of the Harvard Medical School followed 2,156 people diagnosed with osteoporosis and revealed that 3 foods present at the table of 89% of Brazilians accelerate the loss of bone density by up to 67% in just 6 months. These foods are so common, so socially accepted that many are even considered healthy by the general population and some health professionals. The third on my list is so treacherous that you have probably consumed it today, but when you find out the silent damage it causes in the structure of your bones, you will understand why so many people develop spontaneous fractures and advanced osteoporosis after 60, even though they are taken care of well. This channel was created especially for brave people like you, who refuse to accept that living with fragile bones, constant pain and fear of fractures, is the inevitable destination after the 60. Here you will find information based on real science, international studies and discoveries that can completely transform your bone health. Subscribe now and activate the bell, because in the next videos I will reveal the exercises that should never be done by those who have osteoporosis, information that can literally save their bones from irreversible damage. Today you will discover the 3 foods that are literally demineralizing your bones, while you think you are eating properly or even healthy. The most shocking is that the number 1 on our list, the most dangerous of all, is consumed daily by over 70% of people over 60 years, and is often associated with energy, disposition, and even protection against some diseases. Based on recent studies from the world's most respected universities such as Harvard, Mayo Clinic, Karolinska Institute, and Johns Hopkins, these 3 villains dramatically increase the risk of fractures and accelerate the progression of osteoporosis in a silent and devastating way, creating a vicious circle of bone fragility that may not interrupt time. Before revealing these foods, I need to know something about you. How long have you been feeling that your bones are no longer the same as before? Write in the comments, "I feel my fragile bones X time," and tell me your age too. Your experience can help other people realize that they are not alone in this invisible fight against time and habits that harm our bone structure. Let's start with the 3rd place on our list, which is already dangerous enough to speed up your bone loss worryingly. But it's not the worst of all. Get ready, because each revelation will be more impactful and surprising than the previous one. And all are based on solid scientific evidence and studies with thousands of participants. Food number 3, excessive salt and ultra-processed foods rich in sodium. If you are like most people over 60, they probably grew up at a time when putting a good amount of salt in food was synonymous with taste, practicality, and even conservation of food. Perhaps you still have a habit of salting the salad, meat, rice, eggs, and regularly consuming ready-made foods such as sausages, processed cheese, preserves, instant soups, industrialized breads, salty cookies, and ready-made spices, without imagining the silent and progressive damage that causes the mineralized structure of your bones. Excessive salt acts as a microscopic and systematic thief that's stealing calcium from your body with each meal, with each snack, with each innocent pinch you add to the plate. When you consume more than 2 grams of sodium per day, which is just 1 TSP of common salt, an easily exceeded amount in the first meal of the day, your kidneys are forced to work at a fast pace to eliminate this toxic over. And guess what happens in this renal cleaning process? Its body literally sweeps the structural calcium of its bones and eliminates it through urine, leaving its bone matrix increasingly porous, fragile, and susceptible to microfractures. It is as if you are dismantling your brick house by brick, without realizing it every day for decades. Imagine your bones as a solid construction, where each calcium molecule is an essential brick in the structure. Excess sodium acts like a constant acid rain that dissolves the mortar that keeps these bricks together. First, you don't realize anything. Then the back pain begins that you attribute to the posture or the mattress. Then comes the feeling of fragility, the posture that bends, the imperceptible but real loss of height. And when you finally find that you have osteoporosis, the demineralization process has been advanced for years. The most recent and impressive study of this deadly relationship between sodium and bone health was conducted by Harvard Medical School in 2024, meticulously following 2,156 people diagnosed with osteoporosis for 18 consecutive months. The researchers divided participants into groups based on sodium daily consumption and did bone density tests every 3 months. The results were alarming and definitive. Participants who consumed more than 3 grams of sodium daily, amount easily hit with 2 French breads, a little processed cheese, some salty cookies, and a packet soup, showed a 14% catastrophic reduction in the bone mineral density by just 1.5. For you to have a real dimension of what this means in your practical life, a 14% reduction in bone density is equivalent to aging your bones in approximately 8 years in just 18 months of excessive salt consumption. It is as if you are living in accelerated camera, watching your bones deteriorate at a speed 5 times higher than natural. Study participants reported a significant increase in back pain, decreased physical strength, episodes of pain without apparent cause, and, in more severe cases, vertebral compression fractures that occurred during simple activities such as coughing or lowering to get something on the floor. But the most shocking and revealing data of Harvard's study was to find that 67% of participants had no idea that they were consuming toxic sodium amounts. They thought their diet was normal, controlled, or even healthy, often following guidelines they received from well-meaning but outdated professionals. The problem is that we live in a society where sodium is hidden in virtually everything. Bread can contain 400 milligrams per slice. Light ham has 600 milligrams per slice. Healthy Minds cheese has 300 milligrams per slice. Ready sauces reach 900 milligrams per tablespoon, 1200 milligram cubes per unit, and even some fitness morning cereals contain quantities. Absurd hidden sodium. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the study's main author, revealed in an interview that the results were so impactful that the team recommended an urgent review of nutritional guidelines for people over 60. According to her, sodium consumption should be treated as a primary risk factor for osteoporosis, at the same level as sedentary lifestyle, smoking, and hormone deficiency. The difference is that it is much easier to control, and the results appear quickly. To start reversing this destructive process today, completely eliminate the salt added in the meals and replace with natural spices that, in addition to flavoring, provides beneficial minerals for bones. Fresh or powdered garlic, onion, fresh herbs such as basil and oregano, squeezed lemon, black pepper, turmeric, cumin, and apple vinegar. Strictly avoid all foods that come in packages, cans, pots, or boxes with more than 3 ingredients on the list. This automatically eliminates 80% of your diet hidden sodium. Prepare your own meals whenever possible using fresh and natural ingredients, and when it is inevitable to consume something industrialized, obsessively read labels and choose only products with less than 300 milliliters sodium per serving. The practical and visible result of this change is extraordinary. You will notice in about 3 weeks a significant reduction in swelling legs and ankles, improved sleep quality, decreased blood pressure, and even more important, your bones will stop being mined and drained daily by excess salt. Urine tests show that calcium excretion normalizes within 15 days, allowing your bones to finally start to retain the minerals you consume through food and supplementation. But beware, this is just the 3rd place on our list of worst foods for your bones. What is to come will surprise you even more, especially number 1, which is consumed daily by people who believe they are doing good for health. Food number 2, grains and cereals rich in tape consumed without proper preparation. Now let's talk about something that will surprise you completely and maybe even make you a little confusing at first. You probably grew up listening that whole grains, oats, quinoa, nuts, natural seeds, and cereals are the basis of healthy and balanced eating. And in many ways, this information has a solid scientific foundation. These foods are really rich in fiber, B vitamins, minerals, and beneficial antioxidant compounds. But there is a crucial detail, a biochemical prank that virtually nobody tells you, not even many nutritionists. When these foods are consumed without proper and ancestral preparation, they contain naturally tapered compounds that act as true chemical algems, kidnapping and preventing your body from absorbing minerals for the health and regeneration of your bones, especially calcium, magnesium, and magnesium phosphorus. To better understand this process, imagine that you are trying to build a solid wall to protect your home. You have all the necessary materials: quality bricks, calcium, sturdy cement, magnesium, support hardware, zinc, and a solid base, phosphorus. But every time you try to settle a brick, someone comes and glues a chemistry that prevents the cement from adhering and the materials from integrating. This is exactly what the stunts do with minerals that their bones desperately need to stay strong, dense, and resistant to everyday pressures. Chats are composed of natural defense that plants have developed to protect their seeds from predator and ensure that they germinate only under ideal conditions. It is a bright evolutionary survival mechanism for plants, but it becomes problematic when we consume these foods without the traditional preparation processes that our ancestors used instinctively. You may be consuming a theoretically adequate amount of calcium through dairy, leafy vegetables, or quality supplements, but if you are eating raw oats and yogurt, industrial granola, trade breads, dried nuts without soak, or quinoa cooked directly from the package every day, most of these precious minerals will simply go straight through your digestive system without being used, as if you were trying to fill a bullshit. The most revealing and comprehensive research on this topic was published by the prestigious Mayo Clinic in 2023, after meticulously 1,134 patients diagnosed with osteoporosis for 2 full years. The study protocol included detailed analysis of food diaries, monthly blood tests to measure mineral levels, bone densitometry every 6 months, and intestinal absorption analysis using specific markers. The results were so impactful that they changed nutritional protocols in several specialized clinics. The study unequivocally showed that people who regularly consumed non-processed food, rich foods, showed an alarming reduction of up to 60% in the absorption of calcium and magnesium, even when their ingestion of these minerals was rigorously inside or even above official nutritional recommendations. The most shocking is that many of these participants were following diets that had been prescribed by professionals and were considered exemplary, rich in fiber, and nutritionally complete, without anyone imagining that they were inadvertently sabotaging their own bones through choices that looked right. Mayo Clinic researchers discovered specific data that are truly alarming. Daily consumption of only 50 grams of raw oats, quantity present in an average morning granola bowl or fruit vitamin, or 30 grams of non-delayed nuts, equivalent to a small handful, can reduce calcium absorption by 35% for the 6-hour meal. Multiplying this partial block for 365 days a year, for years or decades, you are literally preventing your bones from receiving more than 1/3 of calcium they need to constantly regenerate and maintain their structural density. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, an endocrinologist and the main author of the study, explained that the mechanism of action of tapes is so efficient that it can be observed in real time through specific exams. When a patient consumes a glass of milk along with a portion of commercial granola, we can measure that only 40% of the calcium present in milk will be effectively absorbed, against 75% when the same milk is consumed in isolation or with foods that do not contain tape, he revealed in an exclusive interview. The good news, which can change your life from today, is that there is a simple, ancestral, and completely natural solution to this problem. Our grandparents and great-grandparents, without knowing the molecular science behind the process, already did it instinctively through millennial culinary traditions. They left the grains in overnight, fermented the pastas for days, roasted the chestnuts in the firewood, and prepared porridge that cooked slowly for hours. These traditional processes break and neutralize tapasteaks, releasing all minerals for complete absorption and transforming potentially harmful foods into true bone health allies. To apply this ancestral wisdom to your modern routine, follow these specific protocols. Leave oats, quinoa, brown rice, and other grains in water filtered for at least 8 hours before consumption, adding a tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar or fresh lemon juice in the water to speed up and enhance the process of breaking the tape. Chestnuts, walnuts, almonds, and seeds should be soaked for 4 to 6 hours and then can be dehydrated in the low oven, 60° C, for 2 to 3 hours to recover the crispness, or consumed still damp. For bread and pasta, always prefer fermented versions naturally with mother mass, a process that can take 12 to 24 hours but completely eliminates tape and even produces beneficial prebiotics for intestinal health. The transformation in the health of your bones begins to be perceived and measurable in approximately 4 weeks, when blood tests can show significantly better levels of calcium, magnesium, and circulating zinc, indicating that your body is finally able to fully enjoy the minerals you consume through food and supplementation. Patients report reduction in bone pain, improved physical disposition, and some even realize that they can carry weights that once caused discomfort, but prepare mentally and emotionally for what comes now, because the number 1 food on our list is even more treacherous, dangerous, and surprising. It is religiously consumed by millions of people who believe they are doing good for health and may be causing more damage to their bones than you think in your worst nightmares. But before you get there, I need you to make an honest reflection. How many of these first 2 foods do you consume regularly? Go to your kitchen right now. You can pause the video for a few minutes and make a real survey of what you have there. Tell how many ultra-processed sodium-rich products are on your shelves and refrigerator, and how many grains and nuts you consume without proper preparation. Then come back here and write in the comments, Consumption X of the first 2 foods daily. Your brave honesty can help other people realize that they are not alone in this challenge of identifying and eliminating silent sabotagers of bone health. Food number 1. Excess caffeine, strong coffee, energy and glue, type soft drinks. And finally we come to villain number 1, the one who will shock you deeply for its universal popularity, the way our society has romanticized and even vicinated in its daily consumption, and the absurd amount of damage it causes bones in a completely silent and imperceptible way. If you are like 73% of Brazilians over 60, you probably have a sacred and untouchable ritual. It starts the day with 1 or 2 cups of very strong and full-bodied coffee. You may have another coffee after lunch for awakening. It may still consume a glue soda in the afternoon or evening and perhaps even use extra disposition. What you do not imagine, and that can change your perspective forever, is that this seemingly harmless and socially accepted habit may be causing more structural damage to your bones than decades of physical inactivity, poor diet, and even hormonal deficiencies. Caffeine is a psychoactive and potentially addictive substance that acts against bone health through 3 devastating and synergistic biochemical mechanisms, creating a perfect storm of destruction that undermines its bones day after day, year after year. First mechanism. It dramatically increases calcium excretion through urine. For every 100 milliliters of caffeine consumed, equivalent to an average cup of strained coffee, you lose approximately 6 milliliters of structural calcium that literally comes out through your kidneys and goes straight to the toilet. This may seem little, but accumulated over months and years represents a constant and progressive mineral bleeding. According to mechanism, even more insidious, caffeine directly interferes with calcium absorption in the small intestine, reducing the ability of your body to take advantage of this fundamental mineral of the foods you consume. It's as if you are trying to fill a tank of water, but someone opened an output record at the bottom. As much as you put water, calcium on the top, it escapes before being used. Third mechanism, perhaps the most dangerous and less known, caffeine excessively stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and dramatically increases cortisol production, the infamous chronic stress hormone. This cortisol brutally accelerates the breakdown and reabsorption of bone tissue existing through excessive activation of osteoclasts, bone-destroying cells, while simultaneously inhibits the formation of new bone by suppression of osteoblasts, bone-constructed cells. It's like having a demolition team working 24 hours while the construction team is on strike. The most impressive, comprehensive, and definitive study on the catastrophic effects of caffeine on bone health was conducted by the world-respected Karolinska Institute of Sweden in 2024, meticulously following 2,789 people over 60 years for 3 consecutive years, with bone densitometry every 4 months, monthly biochemical detailed records, detailed analyses of caffeine consumption, and accompanying all episodes of fractures and bone pain. The results were so alarming and unequivocal that medical protocols in various European countries. The data revealed that participants who consumed more than 300 milliliters of caffeine daily, equivalent to 3 small cups of Brazilian strained coffee or 2 double espresso, showed a devastating increase of 23% at the risk of fractures compared to those that consumed less than 100 milliliters per day. But this is just the beginning of bone tragedy caused by caffeine. The most shocking data that should be stamped on all coffee packaging was to find that women over 65 who consumed over 400 milliliters of daily caffeine, amount easily hit with heavy breakfast, coffee after lunch, and a glue soda, had a 340% faster bone density loss than the control group that consumed less than 150 milliliters. For you to have a real and scary dimension of damage, in just 1 year of excessive caffeine consumption, these women lost the equivalent of 5 years of bone density that would be naturally lost by aging. The researchers also discovered something that can perfectly explain why so many people develop osteoporosis out of nowhere after the age of 60, even those who have always considered themselves healthy and active. The young body between 20 and 50 years old can partially compensate for the negative effects of caffeine through robust hormonal mechanisms, a larger and more efficient intestinal absorption capacity of minerals, and more active liver detoxification systems. But after age 60, these compensation and protection systems begin to fail progressively, and caffeine consumption that once seemed normal and even beneficial becomes truly toxic and destructive to the bone matrix. Dr. Eric Lindberg, an endocrinologist and research leader at Karolinska, stated in an interview that the results were so impactful and consistent that the international team recommended a complete and urgent review of official caffeine consumption guidelines for people over 60. According to him, Caffeine should be classified and treated as a primary risk factor for osteoporosis, at the same level of importance as sedentary lifestyle, smoking, alcoholism, and hormonal deficiencies. The crucial difference is that it is infinitely easier to control, and positive reduction results appear surprisingly. But the most revealing and hopeful discovery came when the researchers tested protocols for the gradual reduction of caffeine consumption in a subgroup of 847 participants. Those who have been able to reduce their daily intake from 400 mg to 150 mg during a 6-month supervised period not only completely interrupted the accelerated loss of bone density, but 78% of them showed measurable and significant bone recovery signs in follow-up tests performed 3 and 6 months after the reduction. The real story that most deeply marked me was 67-year-old Maria Helena, who sought me after watching one of my first videos about osteoporosis. She had fractured her right wrist in a seemingly simple drop when she left the bus and was completely desperate when the orthopedist said her bones were like Swiss cheese and that she would need to be very careful not to fracture other parts. Mary had religiously had 6 large cups of coffee a day since she was 30, a habit she inherited from her mother, and thought it was completely normal and even healthy, as always heard that coffee is good for the heart and mind. In just 3 months following the protocol I teach here on the channel, reducing to just 1 small cup of breakfast, eliminating rich sodium and tape foods, and including correct foods to strengthen bones, Maria's exams showed an impressive improvement of 23% in the bone density of the lumbar column and 18% in the femur. She called me literally crying with joy when the doctor said she had never seen such a quick and significant recovery captive in a patient of her age, and that the bones were regenerating themselves like a 15-year person younger. To apply these scientific discoveries in your life from today, start by gradually replacing their strong coffee cups with much less caffeine alternatives, such as organic green tea, only 25 mg per cup, white tea, 15 mg per cup, or even quality decaf that keeps the flavor but eliminates 97% of caffeine. Avoid completely industrial energy, which can explode with up to 160 mg of small, canned caffeine and glue soft drinks, which in addition to caffeine contains phosphoric acid, another devastating villain for bone health. If you are dependent on coffee and feel abstinence symptoms when you try to stop, gradually reduce 1 cup per week until you reach a maximum of 2 small cups a day, always consumed away from main meals, so as not to interfere with the absorption of essential minerals. Ideally have coffee at least 2 hours before or after calcium-rich foods. Now that you have discovered the 3 greatest villains of bone health, I need to ask you a very important question that can determine the success of your transformation. Which of these 3 foods do you consume most often? To get a real sense of damage, go to your kitchen right now. You can pause the video quietly and make an honest assessment of how many of them you have consumed only in the last 24 hours. Then come back here and write in the comments consumption X of 3 foods daily. Your courage to be honest with yourself can inspire and help others realize that they are not alone in this challenge of identifying and eliminating silent sabotagers of bone health. If you are feeling a cold in your belly or even some anguish after discovering these 3 villains that may be part of your routine for decades, let me reassure you with extraordinary and hopeful news. Your bones have an absolutely incredible ability to regenerate, strengthen, and renew yourself, even after 60, 70, or 80 years. Bone tissue is literally one of the few tissues of the human body that is completely renewed every 7 to 10 years through a fascinating process called bone remodeling. So every positive change you make from today will literally build stronger, dense, and resistant bones for you. In addition to eliminating these 3 dangerous foods from your routine, you can dramatically enhance your bone recovery, including scientifically proven foods as true bone builders: fresh spine sardine, highly bioavailable calcium source, garlic braised cauliflower probiotics, matured cheeses such as Parmesan, calcium plus vitamin K2, dark green leaves such as arugula and watercress, magnesium plus folic acid, pure cocoa powder, magnesium plus antioxidants, demold pumpkin seeds, zinc plus magnesium, and organic beef liver, vitamin K2 plus iron plus vitamins B. If you have come this far, it is because it really cares about the health of your bones and wants to avoid the terrible suffering of living with constant fractures, physical limitations, and fear of moving freely. Share this video urgently with a dear person who also needs to know about this information that can save her bone health. Can be a family member, a close friend, your spouse, someone you love deeply, and who deserves to have strong bones and a life without the paralyzing fear of moving or suffering fractures by simple everyday movements. Subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell, because in the next video, I will reveal something even more shocking: the 5 exercises that should never be done by those who have fragile bones or osteoporosis, but many physiotherapists and physical educators still recommend due to lack of scientific update or ignorance of the latest studies. Some of these exercises are so common in academies and elderly groups that you have probably done or still do not imagine the risk you are at. And here in the comments it has total sincerity. Which of these 3 villains foods will you first eliminate from your routine? I will answer each person personally because I know how difficult it is to make these changes alone, especially when they are habits we have for decades. Your bone strengthening journey begins now, and I am here to support you in every step of this transformation that can literally add years of quality of life, mobility, and independence to you. Remember, every day you advance these changes is another day of silent weakening of your bones, but every day you apply this knowledge is a solid step towards stronger bones, a more upright posture, accept D, and much more confidence to live fully. Your bones are waiting for you to make this transforming decision. Don't wait another day.